वक्रतुण्ड महाकाय सूर्यकोटि समप्रभ निर्विघ्नं कुरु मे देव सर्वकार्येषु सर्वदा।
Namaste to all Sanatanis spread around the globe. We are here with the third day, the penultimate day of VSI, where we will be trying to get connected every Sanatani on this globe with the brilliant work that some Sanatani Hindu warriors are doing on ground. Today we have 4 very crucial projects lined up, planned. So that is one event which is coming up on the 25th of this month. Now I hand you over to the host of the evening, Srimati Richa Gautam from Colorado, US, who has very kindly been leading us through the whole. Namaste Richa ji.
Namaste Ami ji.
आज क्या है आपके पिटारे में?
Umi ji, today we have like really I think a lot of it is to do with some of the documentation work that you've always said that is so important. So a lot of it that we have today is about understanding some of our history, understanding the current events of what's going on in say Pakistan, Bangladesh, and Afghanistan, and also understanding Sri Lanka. In fact, I saw that presentation, and I think that's going to be one of the most revealing presentations of tonight.
Yes.
So this is all understanding, some of that, what's going on in terms of the Hindu, persecution or genocide over the years. And
the genocide is still on.
Yes.
That's the whole idea of bringing these projects to the average Hindu on this globe, that the war is not over. We are in the midst of this war, where Hindu lives, Hindu businesses, Hindu girls, and Hindu honor is being taken away every single day as we sit and talk. So it's a very, very dangerous situation. And we are contributing to it by bringing it to the knowledge of the Hindus on the globe. And we want to fight it. We want to strengthen our forces on the ground who are doing some exemplary work against very heavy odds. So let's start, Richa. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Amiji. Namaste. So namaste to everybody. And like I said to Omiji, today is about understanding and revealing a lot of facts that, we are not exposed to. At least for me, there's a lot that I have learned, while watching the presentations that we are scheduled to show you today. And the one reason this is happening is because there has been so much subversion that's been going on since many, many years, centuries actually. So not only was institutionally, institutional subversion, not only have our temples have been, destroyed, or temples have been taken up by the government, those are things that we have learned in the past weekend. And what results in that is billions of dollars are lost from from the Hindu kitty, and it's basically used in any other cause except for the Hindus. So we are not able to run our institutions, right? Whether it's the Gaushalas or Pathshalas or Gurukuls or Ayurveda Chikitsalayas, all of those things which bring and continue our heritage to the world have been subverted. Secondly, the constitutional amendments from 26 to 30, as many of us know, have caused, again, subversion of the Hindu in India itself. So we don't have many of the rights that other minorities have. So that is the other way we are subverted and our voices are subdued. The media narrative, as we all know, has continuously kept our voices down. In the UN, famously in December, the Indian delegate, Mr. Sharma, said that, UN has to start recognizing non-Abrahamic faiths and their genocide also. They cannot keep just counting the genocides that happen or any kind of, atrocities that happen on the 3 Abrahamic faiths, So that Buddhist, Sikh, and Hindu faiths have to be recognized. Their genocides or their persecutions have to be recorded in history. So record keeping is one of the big things, and we were very good at it. Though you might have heard, when I used to study history, or I've heard in many of the, interviews or conferences, I've heard that Hindus were not good at record keeping or history or documenting their history, which is not true. Which is absolutely not true, because you can go to Hardwar to find genealogy records in meticulous detail. That is the reason Nalanda University burned for so many years, because so many months rather, because there was so much documentation that was there. And thirdly, I would like to say Mariah Worth, tweeted recently that Google says that there are 8,700 ancient Indian manuscripts that lie in the Oxford University Library. So what are our records, our knowledge base doing in foreign libraries? We need to get them all back and, understand the rich heritage that we have inherited over time. And today, I think one of the most exciting projects that I have seen, it's exciting because, again, revisiting some of that documentation that we used to do is an important fact. And Ms. Aarti Agarwal is doing that pretty meticulously on her website, hindugenocide.com, and or is it .org? We'll get more details on that. But I think that's most important, most needed, and I really want to thank her for doing this really great service for us. So here we are. I would like to hand over and give the floor to Ms. Aarti Agarwal to present her riveting presentation, actually. That's how I'd like to say it. Namaste and welcome.
My name is Aarti Agarwal, and I'm here to present to you the Hindu Genocide Project, which is a project by Ishitwa Dharm Sansthapan Foundation, for which I am one of the directors. So before I start talking about the project and why we started and what it includes and all of that, I just want to give a very brief intro in a short video, which some of you may have already seen, but I would just like to play a short video to first give you a little bit of a context of what I'm really talking about. So please watch the video and I'll just continue right after the video. So that was a small introduction to what is really happening in the world of Hindus and what has been happening very historically. Now, the Hindu Genocide Project aims to do something about this problem of persecution of Hindus, not just happening, but going completely ignored and unnoticed. So I'm going to just share my presentation with you. So the project is the Hindu Genocide Project, and we all know, at least to some extent, that there are crimes against Hindus going on. There have been historic crimes against Hindus. But the problem is that we are only stuck in that level of knowing that there is crime happening, right? We don't really have any measure of the extent of the crimes, the type of crimes, or exactly what is really happening. So we all know that there is something wrong. We all know that there is something that needs to be fixed in this problem. But what we don't know is that what is the real way forward, because we don't even understand the length, breadth, and depth of the problem. So we all want solutions, we all want justice, but unless we have the exact facts and figures ourselves, other people are not going to take us seriously. Now, if I take a parallel example, we are very unorganized, but if we look at, say, Christian organizations, or if we look at even people documenting jihad all over the world, they are so organized. So if you look at the Joshua Project, they have drilled down details till district level of every country in the world. And they have marked and they have labeled the difficulty index of every village, what is the percentage population of different religions, and of course, crimes and all of that. And similarly, there is a website called religionofpeace.com, which has been continuously documenting attacks by jihadis all over the world of all types. So they have all the numbers of the total number of jihadi attacks all over the world. So you see, there are people who are very thorough. Whereas, unfortunately, our Hindu ecosystem has not really taken this kind of a concerted effort to do something like this till now, at least till a few years ago. So we don't really have any proper, or at least we did not really have any proper documentation of crimes against Hindus. Now, I want to emphasize on documentation and crimes. These are the two buzzwords of the Hindu Genocide Project. Because, see, Hindu phobia is something everybody talks about, but as far as phobia is concerned, it's a very, amorphous concept. It can be like, oh, it's a freedom of speech, opinion, this, that, and, so-and-so is a scholar, so-and-so is a historian, blah, blah, blah. So, there's a lot of opinion in that. And there's a lot of gray area in which people can say, oh, it's my freedom of creativity and all of that stuff. But when it comes to crimes and when it comes to hate crimes, it is not a matter of opinion. It is not a matter of opinion. Whether a woman was raped or not is not a matter of opinion. If somebody is bleeding through their heads, somebody else cannot just come and say that, oh, only the nose was broken. No, we can see that his head exploded, right? Crime is crime. It's not something which can be denied once we have actually documented it. And that is why our emphasis is on the genocide and what all even counts as a genocide. So genocide by itself is a word which is recognized in international law, and it is not restricted to a particular time frame or a particular geography. It is any kind of a crime which is a hate crime targeted at a particular ethnicity or a religious group. So all the crimes against Hindus, or at least most of them, are hate crimes in which Hindus are targeted because of their religion. And while we are documenting it, we have been very particular about documenting only those type of crimes which are hate crimes against Hindus. So that is why the Hindu Genocide Project is important, because we on the one side we have the enemy side working in such an orchestrated, organized way, like the Joshua Project, and the jihadis have their own documentation. And on the other hand, Hindus don't even know how much they have been persecuted historically or right now. So now I will just give you a little bit of a preview of a little bit of a glimpse into what we have been doing and what we will continue to keep doing. So let's look at a comparative study of some of the major catastrophes in the world versus some of the genocides which Hindus have experienced. So these are some of the figures: the World War II, the World War I, the Holocaust. So World War I was, you can see, 85 million total number of casualties. World War II was 85 million. World War I was 37 million. The Holocaust, which includes Jews, the Poles, and there were many other ethnicities which were actually included in the overall Holocaust, was 18 million. And now look at the numbers which the Hindus have experienced till now. Islamic genocide, the actual total number given by Farishta in his recording. He has written a several 3-4 volume book in which each volume is like 1,000 pages. So the number he has given in his book when he has been recording the Islamic history, based on the population difference between the initial start of Islamic invaders coming to India and at the end of the Islamists, that number is 440 million. And there is a figure flying around all over the internet that it is 80 million, 85 million. That is wrong. Because I have tried to find a basis for that figure and there is no basis for that figure. We just use it because we like it. I'm sorry to say it, but that number which everybody keeps using is wrong. So this number which I'm giving is a number we have got from historic records, which was documented by a Muslim, by the way. That number is 440 million, and you can see how it compares with other world catastrophes, which is considered in the whole world as major catastrophes. The British genocide, the cumulative number counting all the famines of the British is 85 million, which is equivalent to the lives lost in the World War II. And the partition of India is 7 million, including Sikhs and Hindus, which is even bigger than the Jewish genocide, as you can see. Now, just taking one part of that Islamic genocide, you can see that the massacre of Muhammad Ghazni was, total figure was 2 million. And in that 2 million, you can actually fit 4 other genocides in the world, which are considered to be very big or very important. All these genocides find mention in Wikipedia, whereas our genocide does not find mention even in Wikipedia. Now this is a comparative chart. You don't have to go through all of it, but I'm just trying to show what are the types of atrocities committed in the Jewish genocide, Greek genocide, Armenian genocide, and the Polish genocide, because these are some of the most commonly heard genocides, and we have done a comparison of all. And other than gas chambers, which was specific to the Jewish genocide, all other atrocities meted out to people in all the other genocides, they have been meted out to Hindus historically. But we still do not even know about it. So this is the historic stuff. Now coming to reality, coming to where we are today. What is the total final figure of all crimes against Hindus as of today, which we have documented so far? And this is a number. As you can see, the number is 537 million, more than that. And we are still counting because we are not finished, obviously. Coming to the year 2020, you can see the number, what it is. It's more than 0.7 million Hindus. And this is a very, very shocking figure, or at least it should be, to think that, you know, all these crimes are happening right under our noses, but we don't realize it. We don't understand the length and extent of the problem. And out of this, there have been 129 attacks on Hindu temples. They were either demolished or vandalized, or somebody was killed, the pujari was killed in the temple, or some other such vandalism. And numbers for conversions to Christianity alone is this. And this is an estimate based on the numbers given by the Joshua Project. They themselves report their progress actually, how many people have converted per year. So this is a number we have got from their website and their estimates, which includes most of the Christian organizations which work in sync with the Joshua Project. This is 0.718 million. And it is actually, I feel it's on the conservative side, because I had facts from certain Christian organizations 2 years ago, in which just one church had converted 1 million Hindus in 1 year alone. So this number is also a conservative estimate. Now what we are trying to do now is we're trying to find these numbers of individual Christian organization or churches, because now they have stopped putting those numbers publicly, unfortunately. So we're trying to take an investigative route and find out those numbers. But this is at least this money have been converted by unfair means. This is not some sort of voluntary conversion. So now how do we arrive at these figures, and are they accurate? Are they exaggerated? All of that, I'm sure many people will have questions. First of all, these are the reported crimes. The real figure is way, way bigger. This is the tip of the iceberg. Only what appears in news reports, in media reports, that is all we have documented. So we have a link, we have the details, we have the geographic tag, we have the ethnicity, we have the perpetrator identity, for tag for each and every crime. And we do this all through the year. We have been working tirelessly all through 2020, where we have taken news links of every crime committed against a Hindu, and we have created this database basically. So our eventual goal is to make sure that Hindu genocide is recognized and at least acknowledged worldwide, not just by the Hindu ecosystem, but it should become incontrovertible that yes, this persecution has happened and is happening, not just in India, but in Pakistan, Bangladesh, Nepal, Myanmar, in UK, in many countries, this persecution is happening, and it needs to be acknowledged, because unless you acknowledge it, nothing can be done about it. And there is no way to make people acknowledge it unless we do the homework, unless we are thorough ourselves in giving evidence which is incontrovertible. And once we have reached some sort of a conclusive place where, for example, like we will be bringing out the report for the year 2020, we actually have that evidence and that data and the data analysis. So this infographic here is just one of the examples of the type of analysis which we will be further publishing for this data. So we will be bringing out the year 2020 reports. So our compilation is almost complete, except for the Christian organization numbers, which we're trying to get the more accurate numbers. But other than that, most of it is complete. So we have manually tagged every crime and the geography of it. So we will be showing the distribution spatially and on a timeline. All of that, we'll be publishing that. And that report will be available for everybody. So there will be a certain update on the website. And there will also be a downloadable report which anybody can download and read. And you can even order a print copy and take it to people and show it to people. Other than that, we will, of course, be continuing to publish research and review articles on these type of historic as well as ongoing genocides. So for this project, of course, what we require, first of all, are volunteers who can help us with this documentation. The biggest effort required is to just religiously document and keep adding links of those crimes which happen every single day. And we need some other resources like publication rights to some other content by, say, other Hindu organizations. And we, of course, need funds, because we have been running in a self-funded way, and some small crowdfunding donations. But compared with the amount of funding that goes into projects like the Joshua Project and Religion of Peace and Jihad Watch, we work on a shoestring budget, and we are trying to do work of the same scale. So it is really quite a stretch, because most of the people working, I mean, not most, all of the people working in this project are actually professionals. We have lives, we have families, we have jobs, and we are all very educated people. We are just doing this because we feel extremely inspired by it. And after a certain point, just reading the same types of reports becomes mind numbing. We wanted to do something more than just read reports of Hindus getting slaughtered. So this project is an outcome of all of our inspiration to do something dharmic at the end of the day. So you can see we need funds for all this software, and of course to some, because social media has started limiting our accounts a lot. So we need to do some sort of a promotion and to maintain the website. So this is a very brief overview of the Hindu Genocide Project. If you want more information or if you need to talk to me, you can always reach me on the email I have given. And there is a contribution link. As of now, we can only take contributions from India to a non-profit website. So this is about the Hindu Genocide Project. And I hope all of you will be more inspired to at least share content from the Hindu Genocide Project. So this is a conclusion on that. I just also want to mention that because I'm addressing a very learned audience, my book is coming out in a few days. So that book is on cowonomics, and it addresses the need for cow protection from all sorts of perspectives. And it's just coming out in a few days now, actually. So please look out for that. And for whoever would like, you can actually buy the book and share it with other friends, and to help them understand why cow protection and integrating respect for the cow as a part of our economy is really, really good. So this is this book, and after this will be coming out the Hindu Genocide 2020 report. So the Hindu Genocide 2020 report will be available worldwide. So anybody can buy it, anybody can share it with other people, and I hope many of you will. So thank you so much. Thank you for listening. Pranam.
Thank you so much, Aarti ji.